Tunnel Rat alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
Over 5 years, 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Telegram, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I'm Toolman Tim. Today is March 26th, 2023, and this is episode 280 of the Workshop Podcast. I'm going to have my brother Don on in just a minute. We'll get the announcements out of the way, and then we will listen to the confessions of an ambulance driver. Should be a good time. All right, so 3 things. Number 1, if you saw the pinned link tonight, if you're on YouTube, come and join us in the Telegram group. Come join your fellow workshop delinquents. Help us hit 200 members. I think we're at 194 right now. We seem to pick up 1 or 2 every show. Everybody who comes by. What I love about it is it's a place for us to hang out. It's share, shoot the shit. But the people who come and join, they're not crypto spammers or anything like that. They're people who want to come in, do better, see other people do better. So come by, join that. Link is in wherever you're listening right now in your description. Number 2, I'm going to be speaking at the Living Free in Tennessee Spring Workshop, April 27th to 29th. Tickets, last I checked, are still available. There'll be a link below at livingfreeintennessee.com. Going to be speaking on killing the poverty mindset. I'm excited. That turned out to be quite the topic, and it needed to be fleshed out a little more in person. So if you want to meet up, if you want to do things in real life, that's the way to go. And finally, I keep telling you about this. You guys want to see a quick little taste of the patches, but patchofthemonth.co, $10 a month, $100 a year. It's a way to support what I put out, but it's also a way for value exchange. So if you like morale patches, or you like to only have one hat and a bunch of different patches to make it look different, sign up. And from there, guys, finally, today's tool is something I haven't reviewed for you guys yet, but you're going to enjoy it when I do. It's the ANKER 347 40,000 milliamp battery bank. And that is on Amazon, $79.99. The thing is as big as a bricklayer's brick. You could kill somebody with it, or at least have an EMT come and look after you after it. So anyway, link is in the description below. And with that, let's bring on Brother Donald. How are you, sir?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. You are an absolute trooper. You left Camden, Tennessee how long ago?
I'm still in Camden, Tennessee.
Oh, you haven't even left? Oh,
no,
wow.
I'm in my hotel room.
Nice. Well, good to have you.
Good to be here always.
How is Self-Reliance?
If you were in the shade, it was cold. If you were in the sun, it was hot, and there was no in between. So you needed a hoodie or you had to take it off. But overall, as always, great presenters. They had excellent vendors. Everything was just perfect.
Excellent. Now, had you been to Self-Reliance before? I
spoke at the first 2 Self-Reliance when it was in its infancy. And then it seemed about the 3rd one where I was actually busy with my day job. They got Jack, Dr. Ken Berry, and it just blew up from there. So I was fortunate enough to be able to come back for this one and speak.
Nice. How'd it go?
Good, bad, and other. I'm always too critical of myself on speaking engagements like that.
Yes, you are, but that's okay. We all are.
I had a very small crowd, so it turned into an intimate conversation of just what we're going to talk about here today.
Proud of you, man. That's awesome. No, I'm absolutely glad. And I know you knocked it out of the park, and you probably had them rolling in the aisles with stitches, because I remember when you stood up at LFTN, and some people knew you, some didn't, and I didn't even know you very well. We'd sat and chatted a little bit, and I'm like, I like this dude. He can make me laugh anytime he wants, so I appreciate that.
I tend to fall into 2 camps. You either love me or hate me.
Yeah, well, whatever. And the best are the ones that do both, right? So hate to love you and love to hate you. So
fair.
So real quick, let's do a rewind. Tell me who you are, where you came from. Give us the 5-cent tour this time.
Okay. My name is Donald Young. I am a paramedic in the horrible state of Illinois in the lower 48. Not going to relocate anytime soon, just for reasons. So if anybody's asking, I transitioned a little bit off the rig, and I am in the classroom currently. I teach EMTs and I teach EMRs, running 3 and 6 month programs, and that is me.
That's got to be kind of interesting. You probably get a pretty good connection with the students then, do you?
It works. It really does. I can teach them everything that's in the curriculum for the NREMT so they can become a nationally accredited EMT. Then they can get their state license, do all sorts of good things. But it's always the like 2, 3 to 5 of them where average age range for going into class, they're going to be between 18 and 25 on the higher end.
Okay.
So I'm 36. I got a little over a decade on them. And I can impart, like, I've done this. I've been there. Don't do that shit. So
how, and this is off, we're going off base here a little bit, but what's it like working with, I guess they would be early Gen Zers at this point, right? Like the 20-year-olds, they wouldn't be millennials anymore, would they?
No, actually I'm a millennial, just older bracket. It's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's funny. Like, everyone talks about the next generation being weaker. I don't see it. I don't see it with these kids. And I didn't see it with my generation either. The ones that want it, go out and get it. And the ones that don't. So there's a few students that come through class, and they tend not to make it. This last class I taught started with 38. I graduated 18.
Yes, sir.
They tend to take care of themselves.
So do they just drop out or like just find it too difficult, basically? Or?
All the above. There are some that show up for the first couple of weeks and never show up again. Others, just attendance. It's a mandatory class per. I got to have you in there for so many contact hours, and we have to cover certain things so I can get you accredited and done. And they just don't want to do that. I have a doctor's appointment. Okay. I have this. Okay. And it's real world stuff, but the problem is you need to schedule that on your off time. And then they get into the whole spiel of like, well, I got it. It's like, so did every person that was in your seat ever taking this adult course. So I don't cuddle them.
Good. Nate says he sees that as well. He's in vehicle upfitting, and that's good to know. Like, because you do hear that a lot. And the reason I ask is because I see it too. You know, I see it in this generation, especially. I think there's a lot of go-getters there, and I'm excited. And like you said, the ones that don't, they'll starve or go on the dole or do something. Who knows, right?
Darwin.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen.
Call it what it is.
Yes. And unfortunately, I guess today we have a few more safety nets to hold them on just a little bit longer, you know?
I'm not going to say that's necessarily a bad thing. You figure generations have passed. They were forced to grow up fast.
Yeah.
Maybe it's good that they can hang on to adolescence this much longer.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go too far with it, what do I know?
You get the failure to launch, right? And
Yep.
just never ever. So you, Don was one of the guys that filled out the entire guest submission form before he came on, which is great because then I know what he wants to talk about. Not that I have to have that, but it sure is nice. And ever since you told me the name of your Instagram page, kind of the name of what you wanted, I love it. And Confessions of an Ambulance Driver, right?
Correct.
So what does that mean to you?
Okay, so the name is a pun in and of itself. It doesn't matter. You could be a full blown out MD doctor, paramedic, nurse, EMT, anything in between. But the second you walk through that door, probably 70% of the population you come across, oh, look, it's an ambulance driver. So
Really? Oh,
yep, yeah. And then I took a little spoof off HBO. I'm sorry, HBO.
I knew it. Yeah. I knew it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, so ambulance driver confessionals. And I titled this one Confessions of an Ambulance Driver.
Yes. Well, before that, didn't they have like taxi cab confessionals or confessions? Do you ever see that one? That
don't
was
remember.
way back.
Yeah.
They used to be like it was in Vegas and places like that, and the taxi driver would drive around and people would be drunk and spilling their secrets or doing stupid things,
Yeah.
So that's when I heard that, I was like, I bet that, yeah, that's cool.
Yep, that's it.
So you came to share, yeah. So, I mean, you're in charge tonight for sure. So you give me kind of the titles of a few stories that you wanted to share,
Yeah.
and then I guess kind of talk about the lessons that came with them, or
Pretty much. I tried to tie it to what we did here at SRF, and it worked relatively okay. Better platform is going to be where these aren't the sexy stories. They're not the gunshot wounds. They're not the traumas. They're more. Well, I'll tell them and you'll see for yourselves. Two things I'll start with. Like I explained what an ambulance driver and all that is, and then I got a couple of things I just want to. So, definition of a confessional, right? It's a noun, an admission or acknowledgement that one has done something that one is ashamed of or embarrassed. Absolutely, I could tell you stories for days of the stupid things and mistakes I've made on the back of an ambulance. And then you have a testimonial, also a noun, formal statement testifying to someone or person's character and qualifications. So my name is Don Young. I'm an ambulance driver paramedic, and this is my testimonial / confessional.
nice.
So, yeah. One of the things I started out with the SRF, and it just kind of works well, is, again, I could talk about like tourniquets, I could talk about shears, and I got all the cool guy stuff around me today. But this is more of a mindset talk. I want to call it almost a gut punch. And the question I kind of want everybody to ask: how many viewers we had so far, just for kicks?
10 right now, at least 10
Okay.
that I can.
So the 10 that we know of. When is the last time you took a personal inventory of yourself? And I'm not talking about the type of pistol you carry, the type of medical that you carry, the kind of mojo that you carry. It's like, when is the last time you had a hard conversation with yourself, who you are, where you are in life, and where you want to go? And a lot of the time when I'm in the back of the ambulance with patients or I'm driving, we're on highway at night, daytime, traffic, and you just have a lot of time in your own head. I remember listening to a podcast with Joey Coco Diaz, one of the best comedians I've ever heard. And he was telling how when he's getting ready for a set, he'll turn off the radio, no cell phone, and then he's just preparing mentally. So that vibed with me very well. So part of my ritual is in the morning, I don't have either one of my cell phones with me. I have an old school alarm clock. They're in another room completely. Kind of like Nicole, I'm going to get that phone call one day that someone near and dear died to me, and I'm going to find out like 18 hours later. But for my mental health, that's what I do. Nice. I catch myself if I'm going to be teaching a class or if I'm going to be doing something, especially if it's new for the first time. I might pull little Joey Coco Diaz out, and no radio, no cell phone. I'll go analog, except for the GPS, and I'm there driving with my thoughts. So with all that time, personal inventory. One of the things I came across with my thought process a while ago was my family is a group of victims. They are the people that are, woe is me, it must be nice. And that never really felt right to me. It just didn't. So I married my wife, and I started listening to Jack Spirko. I started training with James Yeager, like these squared away dudes. And it's like, this feels right. It feels right to be with these people in the back of an ambulance. And it just kind of vibed and it just kind of meshed. Get any questions for me so far?
Oh, you're good, man. I love it. Yeah.
All right. So I got the first day of EMT school story. And that kind of starts out with this guy right here. This isn't the exact same one, but this is a Littman Classic 3 stethoscope. And I got it on the death of my grandpa, the same day I started EMT school.
Wow.
And that was a self-reflection day. That was a gut check day. I had signed up for an EMT program. I was doing just a mundane job. Exactly like Jack describes. I was a drone in a car driving to and from an office, essentially. And I needed to fix that. So I took an EMT class thinking, well, maybe this will work. So I'm all hyped up for it. And in the 2 or 3 weeks before that, it always seems for every good thing, life just has a way of putting you right back into place. Like, look here, fucker. And there it was. My grandpa, growing up, my best friend in the entire world. Love him to death. Sad at his passing every time I think about it. I'm finally to the point now where I can talk about it without, going into tears. So here I am, my first day of EMT school, and I wake up, and it's 6 o'clock in the morning. And now here's the kicker. I'm sleeping in my childhood bedroom on a cot and sleeping bag of my grandma's house because my grandpa had just been put in the nursing home and he wasn't doing well. So I was there to take care of her. Molly stayed in the same bedroom on another cot. So here we are, not sleeping for shit, dealing with all sorts of family drama, knowing that my grandpa's on his way out. But it's the first day of EMT school, so I don't have a choice. I have to be there. So I show up, and the requirement, because there was no uniform yet, there was to be in business casual. So I'm in shirt, little tie, Dockers, nice shoes. I'm just like, what is this? I felt like it was more med school showing up instead of EMT school, right? So I go ahead and I get there. And I remember, I'm going too far ahead of things. Let me back up a little bit. I woke up, and I have 2 cell phones. I have my primary number, and then I have a 630 number, this guy here. And that 630 number is my grandpa's old cell phone number. I keep that for memory's sake. And I do all business and things like that with it. I got a voicemail on that phone number, and it was from 4 o'clock in the morning from the nursing home where he was at. I get a lot of crap because we had to put him in a nursing home, but it turned into one of those things where none of us were medical professionals. We had no qualifications, and you needed constant supervision and constant medications just to control his pain. And none of us could do that. Had to put him in a nursing home, one of the hardest things I ever had to do. And then I get that phone call and voicemail, and it's, Mr. Young, please call us back at blah, 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 blah. And this is at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, I think we know what that is. And I call him back. Mr. Young, you need to contact Dr. So-and-so at Insert Hospital here. Shit. Call the doctor. Well, Mr. Young, we're going to need you to come in today. We need to discuss a couple of things. They didn't say it, but I knew exactly what it was. But, in the back of my head somewhere, it's just that hopeful. Maybe it's not. Maybe not today. Please fucking not today. I don't need this right now. But again, first day of EMT school, I showed up, and I remember 2 things only. I remember my lead instructor sitting with the syllabus, going page for page of rules and regulations and class requirements. And I remember her foot kicking like this the entire time. And I went from one extreme to the other. I would start with, this is great. This is just the distraction I needed. 5 minutes later, it's like, I'm sorry, Linda, if you ever hear this. Lisa, I'm sorry, Lisa. You fucking bitch, hurry up. I gotta go. And it was like this the entire time, the 5 hours I was there. And that's the part I remember in class. And then at the time, I was a monster addict. So we didn't sleep well. Horrible news. Just sat through all this. And I walk out and I see my wife standing next to my car. And she's got 2 16-ounce cans of Monster. I walk over to my car and crack one. And, here it comes. I can feel it. I lost my shit. Like all that pent up from the early morning to these last 5 hours, lost it. drank that monster, and in that one day, I made the arrangements with the funeral home for his cremation. I had all the paperwork shipped over for my grandma to sign. I got it arranged where my grandma and my dad could see his body one final viewing before he was taken to the funeral home. And I'm in Illinois. My dad's in Indiana. God rest his soul. And I got all that done in one day. Wake up early morning, your best friend's dead, go to class, and still have to get everything done, let alone the reading I got to do for the next class. And I start every EMT class with that. My first day of EMT school story, because my aunt broke it down for me, and she calls me Donnie. It's like, Donnie, and I'm not very religious, a little bit here and there, but it's one of those like, God will never give you anything you can't handle. And this is happening to you to make you into a better person. That's the last thing you want to fucking hear when you're going through all that. But it's what I needed to hear then. It makes sense now. She is one for telling absolute truth and tough love. So every time we start a class, I give them that story, and I tell them it's like, that's how this class is going to be run. And some like it, some don't. Some weep a little bit in the back because it's sad. Others are like, oh God, this guy's a dickhead. And that's the way it is. So that set me up for my success of where I am now and what I'm doing. Okay.
Lady says that's a pretty good wife you have there to be there waiting for you with the monster. So
better
she's
believe
not wrong,
that.
is she?
She was my rock and foundation that day. She still is now. I have a horrible day, and I don't have a short fuse, but I growl. And
Sure.
she says, and she's like, okay. Come back 20 minutes later, and here I am like a little sad puppy. I'm sorry.
I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my first day of EMT school, and that set the pace for the entire program. I got through my program, stethoscope in hand. I did my ride times. I did my clinicals. I got all that done, and still grieving the death. Waited for a little bit, and then COVID happened.
Right.
Yeah. I think we know where we're going with that. And it happened, and I took a job working as an EMT just because I wanted to.
Sure.
So fast forward, I'm working on the rig, and then I call this one last call, just pick up the phone, because it reminds me of that first day of EMT school story, just how it meshes together. We are responding to, and let me give you this much. I don't work for a municipality or fire department. I work for a private for-profit ambulance company. So a lot of the calls we get, they're not the sexy, tactical, any of that shit, no door kicking. We don't get the traumas, we get the sick patients that are going hospital, that kind of stuff. We go and we get dispatched to a nursing home, and we get a report of this guy. He is having, for my medical people in the audience, it was dispatched respiratory distress, shortness of breath. Well, let me set it up for you, what that usually leads to. Cardiac arrest.
Right.
Cardiac arrest, here comes Mr. AED thumping a chest. We get in there, and nurse reports that he was lively talking to his son on the phone, and that he's right in room 1234. And then we get in there. Well, he's not so lively when we see him. I'm all sorts of rosy red from the sun. You can see the little raccoon eyes from my sunglasses. He was a whole shade of pale, and his arm was hanging off to the side. Let me get on camera, holding a cell phone. And the only thing I could think of was, I need to hang up this cell phone because we don't need his son, if he's still on the line, to hear what we're about to do. We go ahead, and I hang up the cell phone, put it on his nightstand. We get him on the ground. And then some of the stuff that just stuck out to me was we had a student, and the student started CPR, and it's like his chest went from convex to concave, collapsed the ribs in.
Ooh,
which is common in all high quality CPR.
okay.
We get in there and we're doing CPR, get an advanced airway in, medics come, 3 rounds of epi, off to the hospital. As far as I know, he didn't make it. We didn't get ROSC. Return of spontaneous, I can't think of right now. Essentially doing CPR, he didn't come to. We didn't get heartbeat back. And it's one of those where it's like I had that gut check on first day of EMT school, and it's like, you dumbass, maybe you should just pick up the phone and call somebody that you haven't talked to in a while. And I tried to talking to my sisters and my family, but again, toxic, so it didn't work out. So something I want to challenge to your audience is pick up the cell phone and pick up your house phone and maybe talk to somebody that you haven't talked to in a while. It's a 2 for thing. If they won't call you, sometimes you got to swallow your pride and maybe you should call them. I don't know everyone's specific situation, but you would be absolutely amazed what time and what can happen with time and just forgiveness. Yeah. So the next one I'll segue into is I call this one Big Mama. Only because our patient, you ever watch Big Mama's House?
Long time ago.
Our patient looked exactly like her.
Oh,
We had it's a hospice call. So short version of what hospice is, you're on your way out.
sure.
The team is doing supportive care to keep you comfortable, and try to give you a peaceful as possible passing. We pull up on scene, and this woman wanted only one thing: to go from where she was staying and to pass away in her own bed. Okay. And it was one of those, like, she's Tim, I kid you not. You're a big guy and I'm a big guy. I think she weighed more than us.
Wow.
Yeah. We get her on the stair chair, we get her to the stretcher, and her family had to help us lift her up, and we transport. And I hear my partner in the back, and I hear her talking to the daughter. And as they're talking, we get about halfway with the transport, and it goes quiet back there. First thing popped in my head, oh shit.
Right.
We get up on scene, and here's the worst part. All of her family are outside this house. And we open up the ambulance, and I open up the door, and I look at my partner, and she just does this. Oh shit. Short version, hooked up the monitor. She was a full flat lung for DNR, no resuscitative measures. Called our medical control or medical direction. What that is you have offline and online protocols. An EMT or a paramedic can't pronounce someone dead. So
Okay.
we call our resource hospital, and we're put on with a doctor or a nurse, and they'll tell us what we can and can't do and how we should handle things. So we told them what was up, what we had, and okay, transport her inside. And before we can take her out, her son walks up and pushes my partner. Well, that's a no-go. I don't have time for that. That was going to turn into me and him going toe-to-toe.
Wow.
But then I hear his aunt come up and whisper in his ear, don't do that. And then I found out he just got out of jail. I don't know for what, but his last thing was he wanted to see his mom one last time. Oh, he did, but not the way he wanted.
Sure.
In that moment right then and there, the only thing he could say was, she's asleep, she's not dead. And you know what? Who the fuck am I to tell somebody? It's like, no, she's dead.
Right.
No, she's asleep. I said nothing and I let him have it. So short version, we unload her, and oh god, I'm gonna be a horrible person. Now she is literally dead weight.
Sure.
And yeah, on the stair chair, and her head keeps flopping on that, and her little bonnet comes off. And I kid you not, she was like, I the parts of the story that stick in my head and the way I tell it. We get her in bed, and it's interesting. We got her in bed, and I had my one partner close the door, and we get her adjusted. We put a blanket on her, put her bonnet back on, and it wasn't no more than 40 seconds that door like got kicked in. Here's the son again. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, we're just getting her comfortable and in bed. Okay. And not a minute before that, we're trying to close the mouth, put the tongue back in, adjust her to make her look presentable for the family. So the whole premise of Big Mama is actions have consequences, and you have to live with those. I think everyone's done stupid things in their life, and it's not till you get a little bit older. It's like, that thing I did 15 years ago has come back to bite me in the ass today. Go figure. Whatever he did to land himself in jail and get out, now because of what he did, he cannot see his mom passing. Like I said, a lot of these stories, and then I tell these stories to the kids. I call them students' kids. I mean, it's 18, so they're adults. To the kids, and some get the life lessons out of it, some don't. And especially for those ones that are on that last day where they can not show. If you miss another day, you're out. I'll tell them a story like that. It's like, oh, so actions have consequences. So they figure themselves out or they don't. Yeah. So what questions you got for me? They're like I said, they're not the sexy stories, but they're heavy hitters. They're
Hollywood. I was sitting here thinking, and I'm just going to be honest. I was sitting there thinking, you're going to wheel her in the fucking bedroom and she's going to come around, because that's what would happen on TV, right? Yeah. And I'm like, no, Tim, shut up, because I know this is fucking life, man, right? And that's incredible. And when you said that, like you said, actions have consequences, and how often do you deal with somebody getting physical? Because all I could think of was the dude pushed you, and then you're still doing everything you can to make it as just as good as you can for the dude, and then he comes in while you're trying to do more and verbally, I wouldn't say assault you, but at least gets lippy with you again, right? Like,
yeah.
How often does that happen, and how do you handle it?
It happens a lot, but not as much as you would think. And that's a convoluted answer.
No, that's fine.
For every 10 calls, maybe once or twice. And for every, and this is, I'm pulling numbers out of my ass. We'll say every 20 calls, maybe one of those will actually be the patient gets super aggressive with us, or a family member or loved one gets super aggressive with us. Anywhere from bleep you, bleep this, bleep bleep, to damn near fisticuffs. There are no two calls, there are no two shifts, there are no two partners that are ever the same. Similar, but never the same. Yeah.
When I went, I was last year, I think. Last time I saw my grandmother at the retirement home. She passed away in, I think it was October this year at 100. And I was talking to some of the ladies there, and I asked them, like, how often do family members, kind of get belligerent or, because you're dealing with their parents or whomever, right?
Yeah.
And they said, and it was funny because I was from away. They said typically it's the people who have lived away a long time and come back, or it's usually the ones with the regrets, right? That get, and I don't know if it's always the case. It's just what they told me. They said, it's a lot of times it's the family member who flew in when somebody was on their deathbed that's been away for 30 years or whatever it is, right? They don't know how to process it. And I thought, that sucks.
That sounds about right. That really sounds about right. I've never thought about it like that.
I was going to share something with you before we go on to your next story here. Hippocrates Garden said, my sister was hit by a train as a senior in high school. My mom is bipolar. Mom had applied to nursing school and started LPN school the following January on my sister's birthday. So just wanted to share that. I think he wanted you to know that people, everybody's in it together, right? And,
yeah. Welcome to real life.
I don't know how to put this without sounding like a dick. So I don't want to, but
simply and with common English.
Yeah. So it doesn't get much fucking harder than starting EMT school on the day that your grandfather died, right? But you did it.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's more of a statement than a question, and I respect you all the more for it. It's that must hit the kids pretty hard because, whatever their fucking excuse is for this week or that week, whether it's I want to go to a concert or I have to get my hair cut or whatever it is. Yeah, for what it's worth, it's quite the lesson, man, and you're quite the example. Because obviously you wanted it, right?
Yeah, and I got it.
Yeah, and you're not just got it, but you're fucking living it, which is great. I love it. I tell you, maybe I don't tell you often enough, but I'm proud of you. You do good.
Appreciate that.
And Hippocrates said, when I got downsized from an IT job and went to EMT and nursing school at the same time, not sure.
Shit.
That's insane. Which I'd start working in first. The Memphis area, I bought 3A vest first. Oh, because he was doing it in Memphis.
Yeah.
So, you're not far from Chicago, are you?
No. And that's the company I work for. We service all of Chicagoland area, and it doesn't stop. It's 24 hours, 365, Christmas, holidays, and like the last set of riots that popped off, there's crews that are in service. So I get the notion of the 3A vest. And that's a whole nother opinion and rabbit hole I'm going to avoid this time around. Yeah.
Something else I've thought about a lot over the while, and I'm sure it's to the forefront with you, is that somebody passes away, life has to keep going on. You know what I mean? Like I've seen, I have one relative I think about a lot who lost a kid and just kind of shut down and never come out of it. It's been 15 years, and I'm not to judge. I'm not judging. I just think that it's got to be tough. I don't know. It's a tough topic, but because fucking life, you have to, right? You have to keep going. Cause
you know what? I'm going to be a blunt bastard. It's not a tough topic. It's just, how do you deal with it at the time? And I'll talk about my grandma dying, and this is short. Both my grandma was born in 1938. My grandpa was born in 1936. They had a son, gave him lots of grandkids. Papa was a Rolling Stone. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. So they lived long, healthy lives, and good, bad, and other during those lives. So when she passed, you talk about people grieving a different way. I'm actually on vacation with my wife and her family, and we're camping at I forget the camp, and we're in a tent, and I wake up. No, I'm sorry. We were there for 2 days. Tent set up first day, second day, and then I get a phone call that night, and I'm inebriated at this point. And it's my dad. It's like, Don, she's gone. Well, fuck. I was good when I was around the group, but then I went off to a picnic bench and just lost my shit yet again. And it was one of those where I was able to collect myself just enough, and and the whole point of this, it was the next day. I listened to I don't know why, I don't know how. People grieve different ways. I started listening to an entirely different genre of music because of that day and that passing. Skald, they're a Viking Norse, and they do all that.
Oh, okay.
I never heard that music up until that point, and I don't know what made me type in the old interwebs, Viking music. And as we're packing up the tent to head back to, take care of stuff, I am listening to that. And now that's one form of me grieving, as I discovered a completely form of different music. And then I had a second part of this, but I don't know where I was going with it. I completely forget. Oh, okay. It was summertime, and it hit pretty hard. I'm not going to get into the details. And I'd have moments of good and moments of bad, like everybody. But I remember I was driving to work on January 1st, And I woke up, I'm in my car, and it's one of those warm-ish, cold-ish days. It was cold enough where there was still snow on the ground, but warm enough where stuff was starting to melt.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 8, 9 in the morning, and I'm driving my car, and I see someone shoveling snow. I'm like, this is January 1st. This is a new year. And it clicked. It's like her passing, the world didn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
So what's my excuse? That was just my 2 cents and my take on it.
Fuck. That's wonderful. It's not easy. It just is, right? That's what it comes down to. And
Well,
I guess it's different for everybody, right?
Yeah, well, I've heard Jack on his podcast talk multiple times, like, things aren't easy, but they're simple.
Yep.
And I live that now, and I tell people, it's like, you're right, it's not easy, but it's simple. It's the same thing. No, it's not.
I wanted to talk about this for a minute because you talked about it too. And Erin, she said certain music definitely helps you go through the feelings of things. And music is cathartic, I guess is the right word. Or I don't know. There's something about music that connects to your soul, because when I was like 14, 15, my dad almost died. Like, I mean, he's still with us now, but I mean, it was minutes probably. And I remember staying in the hospital and this cheesy old country song, a Canadian Charlie Major, I Do It for the Money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it had nothing to do with what was going on, but it just happened to be there and happened to click. And whenever I hear that song to this day, it just takes me back to there. And for some reason, it comforts me. Don't know why. It's the weirdest thing, but there's something neat about that, man.
Yeah, I could try to give you a justification why that type of music, but it is
No
what
reason.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think go ahead.
I'm going to share it, and then sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Hippocrates said, so does a sledgehammer and a salt. Yep. So in other words, hard work is also cathartic, and he is 100% right. And I think that might be, that's something that maybe is a little lost sometimes. And I don't want to shit on whatever. I'm just saying that sometimes if you go out and just do something, whatever it happens to be.
Well, we both know John, and his whole thing is like, move with a sense of urgency. If you don't know what to do, do something,
Yes.
That's, again, simple, not easy.
Not easy. So true, brother. Did you brought a few other stories too, didn't you?
I did.
We just got
done talking about a whole lot of fucking death. So let's flip to one I like to call 100 years time stops for nobody. The patient we took was 2020 at the height of the vid. And he was 100 years old. Had just turned 100 a couple of months prior. And the only reason we really saw that was because he had a DNR, and we had to check the validity of it. So we check it, and everything's copacetic. It's like, this guy just turned 100. And he started having a cognitive deterioration where his short-term memory was going, and he wasn't sleeping well. So the place he was at was sending him out for a medical evaluation.
Okay.
And it was one of those, like, you couldn't tell him he was going to get on an ambulance. We're going to take him in a van on a trip.
Yep.
So, the entire time, where am I going? Oh, we're taking you on a trip. Where? And I won't lie to a patient, but it's like trying to, like, dance around it. Jesus. So, as let me describe him to you. He is 100 years old, 300 pounds, and built like a goddamn polar bear. More like a grizzly bear, and you'll understand why in a minute. And then his hands, I got an average size hand. His hand was like a damn grizzly bear paw, and when he grabbed my forearm, it felt like a vice grip. Just
At
so
100.
much at 100. So much strength in that hand. And we get him over to the stretcher, and he's just not there anymore. We go ahead, get him strapped up, and I don't know what made me do it. And I just happened to look up, and I see all the pictures in his room of him and his wife, him and when he served in, I think it was the Army. I couldn't tell, black and white photo. And it's like, it didn't hit me till afterward. It's like, this guy's 100 fucking years old. And then this is like, let's just go over it real quick. Again, analog. We're pen and paper
Yeah.
here. So he was born in 1920. So that means he lived through the Great Depression, right? And so by the time the 30s and 40s hit, he served in the Army. So that means he most likely was front line of World War II, right? And then through the 1950s, you got two sides of the coin. You got both Elvis and Rosa Parks, and he lived that. Okay. 60s, Cuban Missile Crisis. You got the race riots happening all over. And the part I didn't mention, and he's African American.
Wow.
So an
He saw
African
a lot in
American,
the fucking 100
yeah.
years.
And just imagine his perspective on everything, especially a couple of those points I touched on. Fast forward to the 70s, you got the Kent State shooting. Jaws movie was released. SNL just aired, and Sweet Home Alabama. 80s, first heart transplant lives for 112 days, and CDs are released. Again, I don't know how much of this is relevant to him, but here this man was born in 1920 on the dot, and he's lived through all of this. And then the 90s, collapse of the Soviet Union, and I'll leave it at this one because most people in your audience should remember from 2000 to now. If you can't, call me up. I'll get you in the back of my rig.
Clark from Saskatchewan would be really close, but other than that, we should be good. So,
all right. So collapse of the Soviet Union, and good old Mr. Clinton. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
I did not.
So he saw and lived all that, and then him being an African American in the United States during that particular point. Holy shit.
Well, wow. I mean, he would have seen fucking wind-up records like Victrola, whatever the old from the 1920s, maybe even the old drums to fucking every music you ever wanted on your phone. Not that that's just something simple, but what he would have seen in 100 years.
Yeah. And I had the absolute pleasure of having him in the back of the ambulance with me driving with him. And again, he was to that point where he couldn't have a conversation with me, but I'm thinking it's like the things you could tell me, the things you lived.
Wow.
You know? So time stops for no one. The life lesson with this one, with time stopping for no one, is like Jack would say, what are you doing with your dash? How old are you now? How much time do you have left? I'm 36. Statistically, I am in my not my golden years. I'm
middle age.
I'm still considered. I don't know. I'd have to look in a textbook.
I just figure I double it, and I'm like, if I double what I am, I'm 84, so that's getting up there.
Yep. I'm 36. In my 40s, I'm still young and vibrant, and hopefully 50s and 60s. Well, what did I do with the first 35 years? You know, if we're talking to 60 and still being young and vibrant, and the people in your audience, what are you guys doing with that? You know, this man lived 100 years. If you live to 100 years, what will you see? What will you do to accomplish your life's work? Will anyone remember your name? Realistically, no. But I digress. So this one, it's got. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's not a slap to the face, but it's quite something. You know, you think about that. Becky today went mudlarking on the Thames River in England, and they picked up all these little pieces of broken pottery from the 1500s. And you think, so one of them was the inside of the rim of a pot, of a clay pot. And you can see the person's fingerprints. They used to do that to give it grip, you know, so they took their fingers and they swiped it along. And I don't know what you'd call it, but all I could think of was that person held that pot in the 1500s. It was probably their life's profession to make clay pots. Mm-hmm. And who the fuck knows who they were now? You know, I mean, it's not good, bad, or ugly. It's just they played their part in the world, and then the world moved on. You know.
Yep. And all that's left is that we know is like their little fingerprints in that pot.
That's like, it. Little piece. Yeah.
And for your wife to find it and hold it.
and bring it home. She's bringing it home with her. They're allowed to keep little pieces like that. So
Okay, I was gonna say, do we need to say that on these interwebs? Should we not be talking?
no, we're good.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay, that's why I brought it up. I
Got it.
don't know, how weird is that, right? Like, I don't know. It's just, you watch old movies. I watched a movie the other night from the 50s, and there's probably nobody left from that movie. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Everything that we do is important, and then it isn't, right?
I think where I'm at in my cycle is this. The lessons my grandpa teach me, I'm out there doing them right now. My grandpa made me the man I am today. And the men and I'll say people because Nicole's a big part of it. I'll segue off and I'll bring it right back. I started in my path by buying a gun. I bought a Smith & Wesson Shield 9mm Gen 1. And then I needed validation because man. A quick YouTube search later, I found James Yeager. And then you find James Yeager in Camden, Tennessee. Well, if you got a cool gun, you got cool training, you need cool guy fucking equipment. John Willis' special operations equipment. You get listening to him on live streams and podcasts and stuff. He starts talking about Jack Spirko. And then I get listening to Jack. And then I hear, who's this voice? Who's this Nicole Sauce person? Nicole Sauce, and then go to an alumni in Camden, and here she is selling fucking coffee. I'm like, I recognize the voice, and here's the woman. And fast forward, I'm in Camden, Tennessee. I was on John Willis's property on his compound, speaking at Self-Reliance, hosted by Nicole Sauce and John. Wow. Like, small worlds, how things are intertwined and connected. So it segues into this. We just got that talking about self-reliance. A lot of the people we're talking about, they'll know what LFTN is. We talk about community. And this one is relatives are temporary, family is forever. It's a very subjective term, but when I go into it, it'll make a lot more sense. The title of this one is Operation Motel Drop, Have Community. So we are taking a patient from a hospital in the north side of Chicago and taking her 3 hours south in the middle of Podunk nowhere, Illinois. I'm sorry, Nate and Aaron. I don't remember the town.
I was going to chuckle when you said that. I was like, oh, yeah.
No, I just want to throw it out there. Thanks for being on this, guys, and listening to my bullshit. I love you guys. We need to get together when I get back. Where was I? Okay. So we get her, and a couple of things you got to keep in mind. She is a psych patient with a myriad list of psychiatric conditions. They need to. I'll let them play with the sirens. I'll set up some of the training mannequins. They can go to town with some of the equipment. And where was I going with this?
Sorry, I had to put that. I knew you'd appreciate the girls wanting to see you.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
So you were taking them to Podunk.
Oh, she was she was in the hospital in the north side, and this is a really shitty fucking hospital for mental health crisis.
Ooh.
So she's being discharged, and we're taking her home. And then I have a habit of wherever someone tells me home is, I will Google that address just to see what I'm walking into. Okay. And then it's like when I Googled it, it popped up as a motel in the middle of Podunk nowhere, Illinois. I'm like, the fuck is this? And then it's like, okay, I'm going to need clarification once we get to the hospital. We get there, and I'll never give a patient's actual name, so I'll refer to patients as John Doe, Jane Doe, or Fred and Ethel Mertz from I Love Lucy. So we'll call her Ethel. Okay, I get there. It's like, hey, Ethel, how you doing? My name's Don. So where are we taking you today? Oh, the address is 1234 Main Street. Okay. Can you tell me, is that a house, apartment? No, it's a motel. I'm like, okay, 2 + 2 is 4 at this point. And I just need a clarification for, at this point, curiosity. Why are we taking you to a motel? Well, you see, and then let me put a caveat with this. we can't. She just got done being hospitalized and being evaluated for inserts psychiatric instability. I'll leave it at that.
Sure.
So we can't just leave her by herself. There needs to be someone that we can leave her with in their care. Someone can sign the paperwork. It's like, good day. And, oh, well, my mom's there. Is she now? So why are you guys in a motel? Well, we left Indiana and we didn't have enough money. So the only thing we could afford was to live in a hotel and be transients. I'm like, oh, shit. Well, that's kind of sombering right there. Well, hop in the back of my ambulance. We're going to get you going. She was medicated. Everything was copacetic. And we drove. We got her where she was going. And get out of the ambulance. And I need to make sure mom's actually there. So I go up to the door number they told me. And knock, knock. It's like, yeah, we have your daughter, Ethel. And she's, oh, we thought you guys were going to be here later. Okay. Her mom walked out. And we take the stretcher out. And we lower the wheels. We get her off the stretcher. Mom and daughter give each other a big embrace. And what's the population in a motel, right? Everybody, all walks of life. That's one of those, like, you check in on a Monday, on Tuesday you got a new neighbor, and Wednesday the room's vacant. But as we take her down and she's getting off the stretcher, all the people in that motel kind of gather around. I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? It's like, Ethel, where you been? Are you okay? Oh, your mom told us that you weren't feeling well and you got checked out. Are you good? You're back home? Like, holy shit. Here's these people in a temporary, motel, paying by the week and by the month, all walks of life. And it's like, they had their tribe and their community. One of theirs got sick and was gone, and now she's back. Exactly what we develop here with the conversation we're having today. Going to LFTN, going to SRF. I turns out I'm within an hour's drive of Aaron and Nate. Here we are talking over international lines and all that kind of stuff. So having community and having family, it really does matter. Okay.
I believe I got a special care package from a certain brother I consider a brother in the mail recently. That's community, man. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I have to shout somebody out here. So apparently there's a young gentleman in the audience right now, 13 years old, watching on the big screen with his mother. So we just need to say, Connor, I really appreciate you listening to us because I hope this made your night. Apparently he didn't believe his mom that she could talk to us while we were talking. So that's pretty cool, man.
Well, if Connor's 13, I'm going to clean those F-bombs up just a smidge.
It's too late, man. We already fucked up.
Well, we can adjust going forward.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Or just say, fuck it, I don't care.
Yeah, good to have you, Connor.
All right. And then I segued into the title of the last one I'm going to get into. This one is Relatives Are Temporary and Family is Forever. We talk about community, family, relatives. I already talked about that my actual relatives are toxic. I actually had to excommunicate them.
Good.
And it is what it is.
Good.
Yep. And I do that. And my tribe initially started with TAC Response alumni. And I say that, and I take that to heart right there. It's like every alumni member is their family. That whole medical emergency we had down south. One of the guys, he got sick. We went to the hospital. Chuck checked him out. I went with one of the other alumni, and we got him in the hospital. Sat with him, and it's like family takes care of family. None of us are related. We all live in different states. We all do different things. But while we're together, it came together and it worked out. So he has to get shipped off to a different hospital for what was going on with him. And I text, and then the alumni network did his thing.
Yep.
Kayla knows some of the nurses of the hospital he was going to. There's a local person in the area where he was going. They already figured out what they're going to do with his vehicle and personal belongings. The only thing he had to handle was reaching out to his family. Hey, this is what's happening to me. we kind of handled the rest. And the short version with that, he got sick on Saturday. He went in, and then we heard that he was doing better today. He should be out tomorrow. So just to touch on that without getting specifics.
Nice.
So I went through. I had a really, really fucked up call. Sorry, Connor. This is it. It was really fucked up.
Tori said we can keep swearing, so we're good.
Outstanding. And I went into a really dark place, kind of spiraling the drain a little bit. And just from the balcony of my apartment, I make phone calls to Tactical, Nicole, Terry. I called a shit ton of people that night. Chuck. And almost everybody called me back within 20 minutes. What the hell's going on? And they talked me off a ledge. They really did. Both figuratively and literally, because I'm sitting on a third-story balcony. And it's okay. And it's okay. Shit happens. That's what we... So I had family with them. And then I got squared away. And then fast forward a little bit. Taiwan on with a person I thought that was halfway decent. And then, we're inebriated at this point. We're smashed. And he comes in and gives me a big old hug. And he takes... And on that exhale, he whispers in my ear, "I will kill you." And the only thing I could think of in my head was, "You will try." And one of the taglines for TAC Response is, "Teaching good people to kill bad people," since I think like 1996. And it's like the whole warrior mindset of that tribe, like sacrificing yourself when you met true evil. Well, I did that night, and it didn't help that I was didn't go anywhere and nothing happened. But just the simple fact that I was ready right then and there for good and evil to cancel each other out. I don't know what he would have lost, but I know what I would have lost, and it was unacceptable. So better sense won, and I left. There's a lot more of that story, but I'm gonna leave it at that. And it was that next day. I talked to you. I talked to who else did I talk to? Dakota from Camden. Like people, I'm not even anywhere near. Here it is. I reached out to a friend of mine, a mentor, and he didn't get a hold of me that night, but the next morning, "Hey, what's up? Things aren't that good right now." The day after that, we met up and we talked. And he's a solid kind of fella, but I knew a couple of things right then and there. Like, and this is why I hadn't reached out to him. It's going to be the last time I saw him. Not in anything bad. Just he left where we worked. And give me a second.
It's okay, brother.
Yeah. Left where we worked, and he had to go do other things. And we, I'll throw it out there. Fuck it. We went to AA, and I had to figure out, am I an alcoholic or aren't I? And I figured out a couple of things that day. I didn't know if I was an alcoholic or not, but I knew I needed to be there at that time to figure shit out. Because this is twice now within a very short amount of time where it just wasn't I had a bad night drinking. I was having bad nights drinking.
Fair enough.
And then I knew I'd never see him again. And then Dakota, I'm like this on the phone with the guy. And "Are you okay? What's going on? This happened." "Well, you're here, right?" "Yeah." Dakota, 9 hours away. And we're just talking. And it all worked out. It all worked out.
Yeah, it did.
But it just makes you think.
It's fucking. I woke up that morning and I had a missed call from you because I don't have my fucking ringer on, and I was fucking scared shitless. I said I was worried about you, you know, and I told fucking Becky, and hey, and I said something's not right. I got to call him, and anyway, yeah,
I had to. I had to the entire time. I'm getting all emotional and shit, and here's this one taken, and it's like slowly reaching into the bag for a bottle of water. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Just grab the bottle. So it's like, that was great. I need to thank you, Molly. So, yeah.
But so what did you figure out? Like, how do you? That was the last story that you had on the outline, was it? I think. Or
yeah, I think
anyway,
so. Yeah.
I got a few questions I wanted to that other people asked. I saved them as we went along. But
Okay.
What have you found so far? What works? Because you deal with some fucking heavy shit, man. And I don't know what anybody else necessarily deals with, but what have you found that works, or at least that helps a little?
Time, self-reflection, community, and being able to look objectively at your shortcomings. Like, I don't know how many people are going to watch this, but I just fucking aired. Like, my name's Don and I'm an alcoholic. I went to those meetings. I have no shame in that. And then working that program, going with my friend and mentor then. Turns out I'm not. Like, I talked to a lot of people in those meetings. There's other stuff I need to work on personally, but it wasn't alcohol that was my demon. It was just a way to I wouldn't say symptom. It was a release.
Okay.
It was a way to cope.
Sure.
Because I will never smoke, inject, or ingest anything that's illicit. So having a beer after work or having a shot, that was right about right. Only because, like, in the field I'm in, that's what a lot of people do after work. I need a glass of wine or a bottle of wine to go to sleep. What do we got here?
We have a mutual ex-paramedic friend who's been on the show and been open about it, but that was a way that he coped as well. And I think, I think it becomes, it's one of those things. And I think there's power in sharing your fucking story too, because
go ahead.
Yeah, no, our good friend shared his story, and now you guys have that connection where you can, you know what I mean? And I guarantee somebody's going to hear your story and be fucking touched by it too, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think what worked for me and what maybe will work for somebody else was finding a positive out of a negative. I joke that it's like I have a unique set of skills. You may have heard, I'm not John Wick, but I'm Don Not So Slick. I had to. I fucking had to. They just released chapter 4. What I did was every class I teach now, there is a title in those books, in the one I gave you. It's titled Health and Wellness of the EMT. Oh, wow. And I don't go in there and tell them the specifics because I don't need them thinking they're an instructor. Oh, God, he's a drunk. But I'll give them the stories of people, like what they'll do and how they'll decompress. And some's good, some's bad, some's not the other. So with going through that program and working the 12 steps and all that, I now have a copy of, they call it the Big Book, in my little personal library. And we get talking about that. And I can really relate to it. It's like, this is a form of, and I pull out the Big Book. Oh, did you just buy that? No, there's a medic I know. He was going through some stuff and he told me all about it. And he gave me the book to show you guys and teach you guys. Oh, that was really cool of him. Yeah, let's go with that. So I made the negative into the positive. And it just works for me.
Is teaching a bit of an outlet for you as well? It
is to the student that wants to learn. there was a student in this past class, and I'm not even going to allude to any type of the person's identity, not even their gender. They came into class, and they're the type of student that can read the book and fix. So every exam, every test, aced it. But every time we would go over practical procedures for whatever skill is in any of those books, that person would only do it the way it was in the book and the way they were taught, not by me. It's like, this is the proper way. It's like, well, it's not the only way, but this is the proper way. But it's not the only way.
Right.
And then there'd be questions on exams where it's like, well, this is the better answer. This answer is about, it's like, but it's not the right answer. But, in the book it says, it's like, Jesus Christ, give me strength. This person, they were all big and gung-ho. It's like, yep, I'm on a fire department. I run with paramedics. I'm going through the academy. And it's like, that's great and all, but I didn't say any of this to that particular individual. It's like, I'm just thinking in my head, you need to humble yourself. Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that, but that's where we are.
It's okay. Let me slide up a few here. I had about 9. I'm going to pull out the comments first. We'll deal with the comments, and then I got 3 or 4 questions too. So this was about the music we were talking about, but Letty says, Brad Paisley, when I get where I'm going, came on the radio as I pulled into the parking lot that day. There was a little more to it earlier about how she lost somebody, and I just sat and bawled my eyes out for 15 minutes before going into the store.
Yeah.
And Hippocrates Garden said, my best antidepressant has always been strenuous physical exertion. Bike riding for miles, heavy weightlifting, something. I can see that. It does. It works. There is something. Sometimes what I do is, if my mind is absolutely everywhere, I'll just go out and organize my garage. And that's my way of fucking centering, right? I know it, whatever. Becky's like, what are you doing? Just going to the workshop. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
And Martinson said, hard work like hammer time or splitting wood also gives accomplishment vibes to help the depressive fugue. And what do we got here? We got some, okay. So Haas says, how is the staffing at EMTs? Are you finding large shortages or not?
Yes. All across the board, there are shortages for every walk of life in the way of medical. Nurses, respiratory therapists, EMTs, paramedics, techs, and everywhere in between. There are not enough qualified applicants that can meet the standards to fit those positions. So in everything I just talked about, like I said, started with 38, I graduated 18. Not all 18 are going to be able to, not all 18 will take the national exam to become an EMT.
Sure.
Not all 18 will pass it. And then maybe 6 will work for the agency I work for.
And where's that shortage? I can ask 100 people, and 100 fucking people will give me 100 different answers.
Mm-hmm.
Where did everybody go? Because this wasn't an issue a few years ago, was it? Or was it in your field?
I don't know.
Okay.
It was one of those where the vid did a whole lot. It's funny. I'll acknowledge that it's real and it killed people, but that's as far as I'll go with that. Yep. It did more damage to the common middle adult person who was middle. Oh God, what am I reaching for? Middle class and blue collar or white collar, where it just affected them horribly. And then I know for a while that, everyone was saying nationwide news, hospitals are overstaffed, hospitals overran. Some places were worse than others. But I'm walking into ERs with patients where there's nothing. So that whole joke of the nurses playing cards, I walked into a couple hospitals and they're on their phone doing interwebs, and it's like, so there wasn't 100% exaggeration there. And if there's any nurses in the crowd, you can go ahead and get pissed off at me. I don't care.
Yeah, I love nurses, but I've seen that many times, and I know they have to be there for when shit goes sideways. I get it, but yes,
Yep.
Absolutely. I like this. I just wanted to share this. I want to miss, but Renegade, he always has a way with words. He likes to pretend like he doesn't, but he certainly does. But he says music is an emotional imprint frozen in time.
Motherfucker, I'm stealing that shit right now. Click.
Yep. I'd make it a patch, but it's too fucking serious. Can't do that. No, that is really good though. I like that. So I remember hearing years ago, they said whatever music you listened to when you were kind of 13 to 15, kind of that 14-year-old, stuck with you. There's some sort of, again, it's imprinted on your brain or your soul or your being, whatever it is. And it's neat.
Well, if that's the case, Nickelback is the best band in existence.
Hey,
I think I just angered a few of your audience members with that.
Don't worry about it. Becky and I, our two first songs were Aerosmith and Nickelback at our wedding. So, yeah, and I still say they're great. So they're the AC/DC of our age. Haas says, what's the longest you worked on someone and managed to bring them back?
I didn't. I haven't had someone that came back.
Really?
They came back for like a short stint. I actually got this from my mother-in-law. Especially on peds, if you pump enough epinephrine into them, you're going to get a heartbeat. It's going to come back, but will it stay? I think the statistic for high-quality CPR of a person coming back is between 7 and 11%.
Yes.
And that is like perfect quality CPR. So.
And this is the type of thing you see a lot, and you still said that, yeah.
Not so much anymore. In the last couple of years, I kind of transitioned to the classroom.
Fair enough, sure. Haas also said Stained is a great band, and Renegade says Nickelback is the Canadian Royal Band.
Oh, God.
What an asshole. That's great. Okay, so we got that one. This one's a nice one. Letty says, what stories will your grandchildren, well, I think that was talking about whether people would remember you or not, but just said, what stories will your grandchildren tell their grandchildren about you? I think that's cool. And maybe that, yeah.
I have adopted the attitude, and I introduce myself with this to just about everybody. You're either going to love me or hate me. There is no in between. I don't give a flying fuck about your feelings, nor should you mine. And I am fluent in cursive. If you can be okay with those three things about me, we'll be absolutely fine. And then I'm going to tell you how it is. If you ask me a question, I'm going to give you my answer and how I see it. If you can handle that, we're great. And then the next thing is, I wholeheartedly believe in the Second Amendment and weapons, and the tech responsible and all that. Weapons are our religion. As I'm sitting next to two automatic knives, and then go ahead.
It cut you. You cut off as soon as you start. As soon as you started talking about the Second Amendment, you cut out. So if you want to start back with yeah, isn't that something?
I'm TAC Response alumni, and I am the epitome of what James Yeager was trying to go for before his passing. I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I'm a firm believer in patriotism and standing up for what the fuck you believe in. And you'll joke, it's like The Mandalorian, right? Weapons are my religion. This is the way. So I think my grandkids, and I would like to think the stories that maybe even my great grandkids, Grandpa Don was a fucking asshole with a heart of, I won't say heart of gold, a heart of 18 karat plated gold, fair and kind, loved us, but god damn, if we messed up, he ripped it, somewhere in and about that, because at 36, that's exactly how I am, and I don't see myself changing for anybody. I'm to that
Not
point in
even
my
Greg.
life where I'm at that point in my life where I don't care. And that's made me a very dangerous individual.
That's okay. I like it. And that there's nothing wrong with that, man. That's great. I got one more here for you. And this we kind of touched on, so you can, how do you deal with the mental part of working as EMT, counseling, etc.? It's like we kind of talked about, but if you want to touch on it a little more.
Okay. So when we talk about all that stuff, when we get into psychological disorders, we talk about how people will have an emotional break, and we'll talk about how people will go back to baseline. Some people just can't handle that. And this isn't a real long story, but it's this. We had a patient that we transported, and she just 3 years prior to that, absolutely fine. But she was in a horrible car accident with her friend, and she saw her friend decapitated. Wow. She was never right after that. So she can go through all the talk therapy you want. And I'll say it, it's like anything short of a lobotomy, she's never going to be right again. The best I would hope for is, like I said, make a positive out of it, recognize it. Tim, did I lose you?
Yeah, you're there. No, it was your voice was coming
Okay.
through. Your video was freezing a little, but you're okay.
Okay. And just the biggest thing I can tell somebody, and then here's the caveat. There is no shame in your game if you ever want to go in to talk to somebody. If you want to sit and talk to somebody professionally about what's ailing you, you should. If you talk and they give you, I believe in the short term, certain medications are good. I believe that talking to somebody and getting professional help is good. But as much advice as I give out, I am that I'm that hard ass, like, I just won't go out and do it. And that's one of my character faults right there. So, that answer that question at all?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. It answered it with the exact way you'd hope your grandkids would define you years down the road. So appreciate it. You come off as a hard ass motherfucker with a heart of plated gold, not solid gold, because that was good.
Fuck that shit.
Brother, this has been
about anything.
I appreciate this. This has been fun. I mean, I guess fun. Well, it's always fun when I get to talk to you. It's been deep, and it's been a topic that keeps kind of coming around. Every so often we take this detour into some things that we don't always talk about in the prepper sphere. And it's, I think it's important. Actually, I know it's important. I know it's important.
I hate the term prepper. I like in this community, we prepare. And
yes,
it is cool as hell if you prepare for that violent encounter and you learn all the cool guy shit with a gun. And it's cool as hell if, you get into, I had a very eventful weekend. You get into comms. It's very cool if you grow your own food and become self-sustainable. You get in shape and you're the best version of you. But unless you got the right mindset, unless you can keep yourself in check, what's it all for? That's why, like, Confessions of an Ambulance Driver, I call this a gut check. When's the last time you did a self-inventory? There it is.
Thank you, Donald. I like you said, there's 3 or 4 things that that don't always get dealt with, and that's one of them, because like you said, whether that's your mental faculties or your ability to handle stress, or how would you handle a situation that's gone completely fucking sideways and you didn't expect it? Because like you said, you could have all the toys and all the skills and all the whatever you want, but if you don't know how to handle it, what the fuck good is it, right?
Exactly.
Well, thank you. If anybody wants to follow up with you, I know in your thing, you're like, I'm not here for promotion. I'm not giving you any links, but how do people follow up with you anyway? Because you're too damn good not to be followed up with, brother.
If you want to find me, come on to enemy territory in Illinois. Is EMT Don. I actually have a website that I put no work into, and I have no intention of it. I just keep it for the email. You can reach me directly at don@ambulancedriverconfessionals.com. And then I will throw this out there. And it hasn't bit me in the ass yet, so we'll run with it. James used to do it, so I do it too. My number is 630-842-7862. Like I said in first day of EMT school story, that is my business line. But that phone's always on me and always on. I only ask two things if you call me or text me. I'm not going to know who the fuck you are. So I need you, if you text me, to tell me who you are, why you're texting me, and where the hell you heard about me. And to call me, leave that voicemail, because if I don't recognize the number, I'm not going to answer it. And if I pass the litmus test and the sniff test, I will reach out to you and contact you. So
I did not type your number into
those
comments.
Are the best ways to get a hold of me. Email and phone number.
I didn't want anybody, when they skim, when spammers skim things, I don't want your number there. So if anybody wants it, make sure you write that down, because I'm not putting it in text on the chat for that simple reason. So
I'll give it one more time.
Okay.
That number is 630-842-7862.
Thank you, brother. And Josh just said you should record a podcast.
Call me or text me right now. Here it is.
And
absolutely
Don means it. Don means it.
I came to terms today. It's like, I'm not meant for a podcast. I will not do YouTube. Honestly, I doubt I'll really put myself out there to speak at large events. My audience is the intimate audience of, and this is why I was okay at Self-Reliance, of one-on-one individuals. Let's talk. And that's where community's built, that one-on-one.
Yep. Over a drink on or a sit down in a chat on a picnic table at Living Free in Tennessee spring workshop. That's what happens. Thank you, brother. If you want to hang in the background for just a second, I'll close up the show and I'll be right back with you.
Okay.
Guys, what more do you say? I hope you enjoyed that show as much as I did. Dawn, we met just about a year ago today, and for some reason we just hit it off. I think we're both big ugly fellers, so I guess that's one thing going for us. But he is just fucking, I love the guy. Becky thinks the world of him as well, and he's welcome back anytime. So show him the workshop love. And here's the thing, when Don says reach out to me if you have an issue and you need to, he fucking means it. So remember that, because not everybody does. Lots of people love to say, hey, I'm praying for you. That don't fucking mean anything if they don't mean it, right? But Don does, and he gives you the number because he's been through it, and he means it. So anyway, guys, I absolutely appreciate you. I love you, and we will be back Thursday. So as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.